So we will box on with roading. Welcome
Thank you.
and welcome back.
Next slide, please. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
no, next slide.
Summary at a glance.
That was a very good presentation, Cuba.
So this is the government policy statement.
Right.
And the government policy statement. So the GPS sets out the priorities for the following 10-year period and is reviewed and updated every 3 years. So the 2024 GPS guides our funding for land transport and how it will be used from 1 July 24 onwards. And it's built around 4 strategic priorities: economic growth and productivity, increased maintenance and resilience, safety, and money. This guides the money review. You can see there's 3 key pieces there on the right hand side around them to increase maintenance, resilience, safety, value for money. And as we go to the next slide, that sort of dictates how our funding has been allocated and the real priority around pothole prevention. So that is our sealed road maintenance and renewal expenditure, including rehabilitations, basically rebuilding the road, unsealed road maintenance and renewal expenditure, and our drainage maintenance and renewal expenditure, so pushing the water away from our roads. Local road operations, that structures most of the bridges, but includes other culverts and different things like that, maintenance and component renewal expenditure. And that's just important highlighting that local road operations only has the component renewal and maintenance for bridges. The full bridge structure replacements a separate pot. Environmental maintenance, which is some of our spraying, our winter road maintenance, when we're out there clearing snow, we're doing de-icing, gridding, different bits and pieces, tree maintenance, and things like that, traffic and network services, signs, street lights, guardrails, minor events. So when it doesn't qualify for additional funding under the scale of event 1 in 12 years, there's opportunities for emergency growth funding from support for those minor events. But when it doesn't trigger that, we have to meet that cost ourselves. But obviously there is the portion of local subsidy there, but it still makes the local portion for us. And network and asset management. Now, that's our business unit for roading, as well as the experts and the information we need to get. So we're using specialist bridge engineers to come into the bridges to enable us to do our present value end of life assessments for structures and remaining life assessments and everything like that. That comes out of that pot, and that pot's very important for preparing for our next 3-year period. Bridge structures renewals, so 2 of the projects in the first 2 years is around Manitoto and Scotland bridges, walking and cycling, footpath maintenance renewal, and that includes the renewal of footbridges, which we have a couple that come up in this presentation. Road safety promotion, so that's our education and the work we do around road safety and improvements. Next slide, please. So just a reminder back to Wednesday, when we gave a bit of an overview around confirmed allocations, and from the GPS slide, that pothole prevention piece, looking after our roads is the key priority. And then you can see where some of the priority shifts from there. And one of those other ones highlighted is that we'll get money for maintenance and renewals on footpaths there, as well as local road improvements, where we got 40% of what we asked for. Next slide.
The bridge is not potholes.
Unfortunately not.
What if there's potholes on the bridges?
Funding's pretty well determined and dictated through how we spend that money. So the pot's the pot, and pothole prevention's another one that you can't shift out of the NZ2 allocation into other pots. It is fixed and to be used on that pot. So we're delayed 12 months with our long-term plan. We didn't get a year extension with our submission to NZTA, so we are in that first year of funding. So in August 2023, we prepared our 10-year budgets submission to NZTA and our 2024 transport activity management plan for roading. In December 2023, we submitted our final investment case. We focused on that silver level of investment that so there was a real priority to address our bridge maintenance and component renewal, and not to create a further bell wave of maintenance and renewal requirements for our bridges. Next slide, please. Through the annual plan, we really considered where we could take risk, moving some projects to bronze option one where we could, noting that we were potentially delaying addressing some things by a year. Our recommendation investment levels remain as silver, that option two. There are some instances today where there is funding back even to achieve bronze, which we'll have a chat about as well. Next slide. So pothole prevention. So for our annual plan, we initially budgeted silver. Our bid was silver. We've received NZTA subsidy to allow us to do silver. Through the annual plan, we reduced our renewals due to timing of being able to do works. Next slide. We have a significant program of commitment required for the Manitoto, which we are prioritising investment in. Due to timing of required consents for gravel extraction, we've been able to take a bronze approach for the annual plan year. However, for the long-term plan, 25-26 onwards, we need this level of investment to not create future issues as we start to address these significant programs. Essentially, we do not recommend sustained investment at that bronze level of option two. This year program is around finalising Roxburgh, where we have been working, and there's still some roads there to finish middling, before moving to the Manitoto to address the middling program there. And that's where that shift in expenditure is there. We also have a rehabilitation this year, which is the grey box at the top there, and that's the Ida Valley Omakau Road. We've been identified through the modelling work we've done, and that's in the progress now, planning that work to be undertaken soon. There is another rehabilitation project as well that's been identified. Yes. Next slide. We have 51% share of the program we have proposed. We will have subsidy on all we propose to do for 25-26, and this is where the government policy department on transport has prioritised investment. From 27-28 onwards, that's greyed out because we do not know what the NZTA subsidy share funding will look like as we go into future long-term plans. But that's the indicated level of investment we require across those periods as well.
So the NZTA, that's 51%.
Correct. And we've got the 51% for.
Confirmed.
Correct. There's instances where we do not have full 51% of the program from NZTA.
Okay.
So there is a funding gap.
They can drop the far rate if they want to.
No, we need to, basically, NZTA has given us this much.
Yeah.
We need this much,
Okay.
and that's more than 49%.
Okay. Yeah.
Next slide, please. So I know one of the options that's been put forward and looked at is around reducing road maintenance costs. We have had a look at some historic work that had been undertaken around reducing grading programs and different things like that. And looking at that work, it made up quite a small portion of the pot in terms of about $10,000 of grading costs for that piece of work. So what we want to prioritise over the next 18 months is pulling together an unsealed road/track strategy. So reviewing our grading frequency, and adjusting grading schedules to reflect actual use and needs of specific roads. So that coupled with network rationalisation. So can we reduce the extent of our network that suits for maintenance renewal, focusing on key routes? So there may be some instances, and there are some instances of roads that serve no price. There might be an alternative route, just like there is for a bridge, where that road doesn't serve properties, but the alternative route could be prioritised for maintenance, and we start maintaining some of our roads. There's kind of a grid of network of roads in some instances across the network. Can we look at working with our community around which of those roads are priority routes, and potentially reducing the amount of road we maintain and do. Bridge detours and resilience, so explore alternative routes and improve resilience with detours in line with bridge strategy. So if we're not renewing a bridge, look at what roads networks that serve how people come and go and around what people maintenance is required. Driveways and network extent with the driveways there. Are we grading roads that don't serve many people? How does that relate to our hierarchy? And obviously council take on the responsibility of maintaining some roads, and there are conditions around that in our road policy. There are some roads that we are maintaining that don't meet that requirement. So having a look at those and coming back with that. An extent of winter closures, do we risk doing work for it to be undone in terms of are we helping communities to grow? early or different things like that. Are we getting the road back up to standard for it to have an aggression and different things like that? So we're proposing doing that to help inform our next bid of investment and what that looks like, to really understand the impact and come back to council with that, around that level, to enable that level of focus conversation, as opposed to in the next 2 months.
Driveway one, is that a case of we probably are doing different to what our current strategy says?
There may be some instances where roads have historically been maintained.
Keep on doing.
So, yes, correct.
So is there a number, do we work on a number, or how do we work out what the driveway looks like?
So for something to be added to the hierarchy for road maintenance, there's about 5 different conditions in the road policy, and I would really hate to throw myself off the top.
Oh, no, so the key thing about this is if you've got 5 to get in, then it should be those same 5 to stay in.
Yes,
And we need to go look at those ones that are in and say, should you be here?
correct.
And if they're not, then we need to manage the process,
Correct.
to not upset them and take them out.
Correct.
Good luck.
Correct.
I'll give you some driveways, I can tell you straight away. Yes, you've got views.
Yeah, but
Which I guess is the reason why we need to take a strategic
Yeah.
approach, because it will get a reaction.
Yeah, but,
Certainly gonna get a reaction.
but we can't keep,
It's a fear across the board.
yeah, that's the key thing,
that
yeah.
These are the requirements or the things that you need to meet to be on the schedule.
Yep.
There's nothing stopping you from paying for it yourself or
Yep.
going the other way or.
it might move from 4 grand a year to 1 grand a year, but it's not likely to be great 4 times on something called that is in the trade area as well.
One of the things we would ask was that once they have been remeasured, that we drew the line in and see it's landowner's responsibility. Because they'll only be getting a grading year probably because they're not from the trend.
It's almost like the trying to replace and divest a bridge. You replace the bridge and then you divest it, you rebuild the road, then you gently divest it or reduce the maintenance on it. Yeah, there's potentially opportunities around road stockings as well through this, and reducing the actual centre and through that as well. But again, there's quite a lot to work through in that, that we propose to kick off that and undertake that, to enable the decision to be made going into next long-term plan and next bid to CTA.
It'll be pretty easy, folks. There's a lot of expert grader drivers I've met in my time. Some of whom have even driven a grader.
I'd say most of the experts have never driven one. Oh, I
No.
was expert.
So local road operations, so this is that structures, maintenance and kind of renewal expenditure, environmental maintenance, traffic, minor and separate gas management. So the light, sorry, next slide. So the 2 light blue pieces in there, have just been pulled out just due to significance, and that's around the Little Valley Bridge component renewal. So annual planning year, current year, that's around the decking basically from the component B replacement for that bridge, and that project's scoping is underway, and working through that timing, and everything there. The next piece of the puzzle for 26, 27 is that pole strengthening, in there as well. And, as we work through the 24, 25 annual plan project, we'll gain more understanding around it, but at this point in time, we believe that's best set in the where we have, local shared, NZTA share as well. To complete that, if we go to the next slide, right. So the annual plan year we spoke about on Wednesday with regards to that $500,000 piece using carry forwards to enable the Little Valley, the portion of the Little Valley Bridge project for the annual plan year. For 25, 26, 26, 27, we do not have carry forwards to enable us. Sorry, next slide. We've got little circles here. That's around the carry forwards. Slide, thank you. There's 412,000 and 88,000 in the missing subsidy. So we asked for the total of those 3 boxes there, and we have received the green bit of NZTA subsidy, and to achieve the rest, we need that level of top-up missing subsidy to enable us to complete the works we've identified. A big portion of that, some of that funding in there is to enable us to address what's needed for that next 3-year period. So When we get to bridges, you'll see the scale of the issue we had for the next 3-year problem, period. And that funding there enables us to prepare best for that bid. And like $270,000 of that increase is for those group development and life assessments to enable us to then get funding for the following 3-year period. Some of it also relates to bridge component renewal maintenance and those identified maintenance needs and renewal needs addressed over that 5-year period that was identified through that data report that we spoke to through bridge strategy work. And as we continue discovering things with bridges, the problems probably growing at this point, and as we keep trying to understand the challenges in that space.
Do we have a strategic view of bridges in terms of the tonnage that they'll carry and where we've identified routes that heavy traffic has to take? Like how many places have we restricted the weight to just these ones to try and eke out the time until these ones all need replaced?
We haven't looked at reducing it to prolong the life of a structure. We have just completed a posting assessment of a number of structures and looked at does a restriction need to actually be put in place for the structure. So as we've worked through that, that will likely come to council for information in November, because it actually identifies a number of new structures that require posting be placed on them. So we're working through the process of implementing those postings or doing, for some key structures, the work required to ensure no posting gets put on those, because some of those routes may be key routes and different things like that. So again, as we work through this and keep doing the different assessments and requirements, we are discovering more in the bridge space. So that will come in November, the council around what that looks like. We haven't looked at setting a bridge to prolong its life where it's not required.
Yeah.
So that's local road operations. And then there's walking and cycling. So there's 2 spikes there. So next slide. Walking and cycling also includes footbridge replacement or component renewal. So we had 2 structures coming up in the 10-year period. One of those is Shaky Bridge, and in 33 is the Horseshoe Bend Bridge. Now, back to the local road operations piece, we need the funding to undertake the present value of life assessments to assess whether component renewals required or replacements required. What do we need to prolong the life of these structures, or is it best value to replace these structures? Both of those are going to potentially involve challenging decisions around what we do for those, which will come back through those subsequent LTP periods. But that's where those 2 spikes are highlighted there around a solution that's going to be needed and addressed for those structures as they come to the end of their life. Right. So we had a 66% reduced subsidy in walking and cycling. And through the annual plan year, there was a top up in terms of addressing that through the carry forwards piece. In that first instance there in the grey box on the 24-25 piece. The missing subsidy blue box on top of the 25-26 is the top up required over top of the share to achieve bronze. Now, even at bronze, heading up with footpaths, maintenance renewal is a challenge and will pose a challenge for maintaining current levels of service. And there are some backlogs of footpath renewals that do exist. Next slide, please. A level of investment lower than bronze is inconsistent with retaining a level of service performance measure target of 70%. So that's our current footpaths meeting council level of service, and as council we've defined a performance measure that says our footpaths will be greater than 70% in terms of condition. And I'll explain that in a little bit more detail in a second, but just note that it is potentially starting to see a decrease in that condition there. If you go to the next slide, so this shows the modelling, which covers the footpath conditions. So at the top, there's a very, very thin line in black for very poor, and then poor, fair, good, and excellent. So at bronze level of investment, by 26, 27, the majority of our footpaths will be fair. And if you go to the next slide, that sort of shows an example from condition assessments of what that looks like. So, sorry, next slide.
We deem to be fair. In what, like accessibility and.
Yeah, so
There's
there's guidance around how we undertake condition assessments for that, and there's that sort of gives the visual example of what they're looking for in terms of scoring the sections of footpath and the number of holes on a footpath. So, sorry.
Sorry, Kippy, just looking at, I mean, those very poor ones are entrances to houses. So when those things are getting done, is it potentially that what's been put down afterwards has been substandard once the building has been put in for even for a subdivision or something like that? Or is that got to meet a standard when there is?
Yeah, typically, sometimes like when you're doing an entranceway, you might look at doing a high quality piece to cross the entranceway piece, but I would say those photos are just examples, and it's like that even in situations where you don't have the vehicle crossing.
Because the average to fair also looks like there is a bit of greenery, and how much is tree roots and things causing problems?
Yep, that's a continuing challenge. And we do have some ideas and options around how we address tree roots and some of our more problematic situations around maintenance and different bits, which will come back to the relevant.
Some of us have the same suggestions.
And I guess, I'll just float the piece here that we're pulling together some information looking at. So Gear Ave, for example, where we have quite high maintenance and tree roots causing a problem. The trees are potentially historically installed without root guard and different bits and pieces like that. We have historically spent money maintaining and doing a renewal there for it to become an issue again. So we're looking at what options we have for that across the board. And that could be changing the level of service or the type of pavement or surface for Gear Ave to a different surface and type.
I'm talking big setting tree roots, bumps and falling in the road on their bike on the way to school. You're not talking just a crack to step over or push a pram through.
Correct. So we are looking at some options there because we do get a number of problems in relation to that. And historically, we have undertaken maintenance and different bits and pieces there, but obviously we don't want to continue doing maintenance on a problem that's going to keep surfacing every couple of years. So actually having a solution around potential payment legal service and does that become more like a cycle plant, it's level of material or in terms of
So just so we're really clear, what you're saying is that the funding that we've received does not, I mean, this is excluding people requesting new footpaths, because that's out of the question altogether.
No,
This is literally to bronze, we're gonna, the top up is required for bronze investment.
and
to get to that middle picture,
Just to get to the middle
that's our target.
correct. Yes. So at the moment, that graph behind, can you just go 2 slides?
If you look at the graph behind it, the grey is the majority.
Oh, yes, I do want to go forward.
The majority.
Wow,
Yeah.
So that's bronze, level of investment, which we're asking for the top up to.
We're not even guaranteed to get that.
So we've got what we've got. The funding we've put in the budget is making that. That's the funding we've put in.
Well, I think there's a couple of things here, and as you've already alluded to, it's safety. And that's significant with our elderly population because safety becomes access because I'm too scared to walk that path or ride my motor scooter on that path. But it's also just, I remember driving through from Bendigo to Ballarat and going through some pea-addled, horrible bloody town. And one of the things that made it look so horrible was the footpaths. The weeds coming up through it just looked derelict. And so I think it's an imperative that somewhere in this LTP conversation, the public get to see what's gonna happen and know the cause of it.
Yeah.
Because this is gonna have a significant change, and we need to get ahead of the conversation going, well, we're already topping up to be this bad.
Yeah, a picture like that wouldn't hurt.
Yeah,
And
So
again,
that's
that's another step to become good.
yeah.
here.
And I don't think with our experience at the moment, we can possibly look at that. I don't know, have to see, but I broken.
Really tough for again, just so next slide. So that's where our investment will be targeted. So if the pot we have, so you focus directly around safety, filling the cracks, the holes, the different things, and just trying to make footpaths safe, rather than potentially full renewal, what's around just doing safety related maintenance.
People are gonna hate this.
So we're
I
gonna
was
have
just
to,
about to say, you're not gonna be popular again.
Well, the thing is that we're doing what we can. We can't put the rates up more. We just can't. We
But it's
can't,
fine.
yeah, it's gonna lie in the explaining.
And getting to that is an additional activity.
Yeah, getting to that.
but the thing that we're going to have to do, the harder conversation that we had, and one that's important is saying, most of these are the result of vegetation.
Yeah.
So we've planted, or encouraged, we have a policy about planting. And so Barry has a really good example, London plane trees, they're fantastic trees, they were planted supposedly with root guards, they were redone, there was all this stuff, and it ain't working. So the other conversation we need to have is saying, and the only other way we've got to fix this is to start removing some trees. Now, some people will be really happy about that.
On something.
Some people won't get a flying fig about it.
Yeah.
Other people will be really, really upset. And somewhere on the line though, I think going looking at these, and I've watched our footpaths for Cromwell for God knows how long, and it's all because of trees.
Yeah.
And that's where
More.
there's some potential decision points around a level of service around, do we value the trees or do we value paths being hedged? And could paths be converted to a nice gravel where the roots can actually pass through, as opposed to creating.
But it's a case of good money after bad
Yeah.
on Barry Ave.
Money
Good
might
example.
be spent better. get rid of
Well,
it.
that's it, it's not in isolated places, but all you do is 15 years later, you go and fix it.
Yeah.
And 15 years later, you go and fix it. Now,
All these.
Yeah,
yes.
we're gonna have to have hard conversations.
Limited, but it's
The big stuff growing, isn't it? It's not growing.
yeah, and it's just around timing of renewals and keeping up with renewals as well. If there's not the money there to continue keeping up with those renewals.
And what's worse is that driveway in the very pause probably looks like it's been dug through there.
Yeah.
At some stage, so it's a poor repair that led to it probably in the first case as well. And whether the driveway and the crossing was done to the right standard in the first place, it should have been because we approved them.
So again, a strategy around our footpath renewal, and those situations and everything. So, one of the pieces of the work we're considering is bringing together, the council around the community and footpaths and the options for that. We're only just kicking that piece of work off now and understanding, the cost of existing maintenance, the cost of building an option is potentially addressed because we're moving all those trees along there, versus changing that footpath to a different material, maybe a more palatable option. But that's something we'll work through and come back for a session.
And the same as we need to think about some of the things that we do when we do developments or whoever does them.
Yeah.
They're signed off.
Yep.
And I'm going to use my place as a good example because it was done, it sat there for a long time with the main pipeline coming up through the section onto the road verge, across the road. Until someone built a house there and started irrigating the grass, it was all fine. As soon as that started happening, guess what? The trench where that pipe was in dropped 4 inches, including the curb and into the road. And you go, oh, now that's not necessarily anybody's fault, but what it does go back and say, actually, when we're doing the works in the first place, we need to think about what's going to happen next. And when you start making things green and the fill that's there having back to what it should have been, you get those things. We set ourselves up to fail as well. And that's, so it goes, go back to the root cause.
Oh, yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Coming lately, it's coming hot.
Saving it up for you.
So,
I sleep did.
yeah. What is it?
Be jealous. Build him up.
No, so it's 140,000, level of service, basically, yeah, so it's 140,000 bronze on top of, current, it's
Challenge, isn't it?
not so much, and potentially the conversation around the trees and the servicing piece, that will still potentially have a cost to it for still the flood plain areas as well. But would represent ongoing maintenance and real costs, so you may not realise the value of doing it this year or sometime, but yeah.
Is any of that come across parks? Is there any shared costs there if we're looking at trees and renewals and replacements and for now? David's not in the room, can we charge him?
It's still a community cost.
Yeah,
Regardless, it's still 100% being funded by.
but is any of that taken care of? Because I know Gordon's been out a few times to gear out to
Yeah.
a couple of people in particular I can think of.
Yeah, and that's just trying to use the skills and expertise that we have in-house to come up with the best solution.
Yeah.
And that's where we provide the types of trees and those types of
Right.
elements act and different things like that. But
And we're just complaints, giving advice on the quality of the tree, whether the tree should be removed as a specimen. The important thing is that, we're working together to make sure that we're, because clearly it's a cost overlay.
Yeah.
Understand the trees, understand the footpath requirements, but, more importantly, the communities desires around trees and level of service.
What's the implication there on private project? I know one particular on gear, I'm thinking of a particular tree roots have actually invaded their property and causing damage to a wall and the driveway and whatever else there. What happens there?
like probably.
That is a conversation that, they Gordy would take up in the first and liaison.
But that's our responsibility to do something there that comes out of the projects as well. No.
That's
Okay.
this is like.
That's at the corner of Molly and Gear F, same been doing it for 30 years.
No.
It's just been, what's that fence over 30 years, just been trashed.
Next slide, please. Road safety. Our local share is the piece, and sort of that light blue there. We did, not achieve the, full NZTA subsidy for roads, the road safety, area. We're proposing through the plan not to use any carry forwards for that piece and just use the local share plus the NZTA share and maintain that same local share of investment. So there'll be no change, no impact through there. That was the same across the board. Next slide. Bridge structure renewal. Next slide. For 25, 26, 26, 27, we had two structures that we submitted for funding. Next slide. We asked for 3.17 million. We've received 1.6 million. So 50% of what we asked for. Next slide. Proposing to just match the NZTA share with local share through the RTP. So work with the 1.6. The priority from NZTA was around that non-legal service non-renewal of Scott Lane with a priority on the Manitoto Road Bridge. So we are starting conversations we started conversations with the Scott Lane community around the outcome of our funding and what that might look like with the funding that is there. And they are considering some of the options they have as a community in that. And obviously that will come back through the process of proposing the level of investment is matching what NZTA requires. So the 49% of that 1.6 across both of those years. So that's just showing the NZTA subsidy and local share. The priority being undertaken at Manitoto Road across 25, 26 and 26, 27. Next slide. That shows it. Oh, sorry, that one. That shows it there with Manitoto Road. On both of those, being that reduced level of service. So we will, we've started also conversations with Manitoto Road Main, but there may be a better alignment than the current bridge through their land, different things potentially shorten the extension of the bridge that's actually needed. So we'll look at all things as we move forward into that 25, 26. Yeah. Next slide. The next period. Jump on slide, please. There are, in 28, 29, there are 14 structures coming to the end of their life, and putting the bridge strategy over those, that shows those 14 broken down there. and the funding assumptions we have got. So the slide before showed the level of investment needed, that actually has funding assumptions put over it. So not replacing the 8 of 14 that we've had full. 100%, 100%, have put in 100% of the funding for. Now, this comes back to the importance of that local road operation pot and doing those present value end of life assessments, because we need those against those structures to have any chance of NZTA funding in the future. So we will be over this next 2-year period and to prepare for our submission, understanding every single one of those structures, the impacts of potentially those lower level of service, the opportunities for investment, basically running a bridge strategy across those and gaining more information and coming back through that time for decision of council, because council may make decisions around not renewing some of those structures. There's 4 tags there for review/reduced level of service, based on detour length and the number of people that use it, that council may wish to not renew some of those structures with, and obviously we'll collect the information to enable decision making there. There will be some challenging decisions.
With those 14, are they across the district or are they primarily based in one district?
It is across the district. There are more bridges in some places, some of the wards than other wards, but I do know some of those structures. So one of the replacement structures is the Ida Valley Undercover Bridge.
I was wondering if that one was in there.
It is in there in the 28-29 period. So that's it. That's a version of this.
It's a big bridge too.
Correct. So, but it may be able to be done through component renewal and renewing some of the components or doing that as opposed to full replacement. So we need to understand the best way forward for each of those structures, and we'll come back through the next period to enable robust discussion around what our investment is for the next 3 years. And that's why they aren't necessarily split at this point in time, because we do not know the timing of exactly when those structures may fall or the ability to prolong some of those replacements. Next slide, please. Improvements. So this was where we received, please go to the next slide. This is where we received 4% of what we asked for. And so the projects that we got funding for is in green there. That's the $500,000 for Clyde Heritage Precinct. So we received the 51% of that for the finalising of that piece. We made through the annual plan, through our first submission, that 24-25 period was all the projects were originally committed in December. And then through the annual plan, we rationalised that given the environment we were in and pulled a number of those projects. We increased the small safety projects here to 150,000, and then we had 150,000 in for the speed management plan, safer speeds around school, so the signage rollout, the variable speed signs. We did not get NZTA funding for those 2 yellow projects. So the only one we got was the Clyde Heritage Precinct. Next slide, please. So this period here, we have proposed the $50,000 for the final rollout for our speed management and any signage improvements, particularly in line with the timing NZTA might do around the schools with NZTA network associated with them, and maintaining that small safety project district-wide piece. All other remaining items in there, anything you do, including those yellow, is 100% locally funded. So it's our recommendation to focus on just having the money to finish the school piece and some funding to allow us to address small safety projects. And that could be some of those other projects which are outlined there, which could be raw crossroad and section improvements or drop curbs or different things like that, or just better impact safety related pieces. So nothing essentially appearing in 25, 26 or 26, 27 apart from those yellow highlighted pieces. Next slide, please.
And I could just add in there, what I would say is doing these programs, the improvement programs always have a bit of a wish list. We always know that there's a really high chance that it's not funded, but they're the projects our communities often ask us for, so we have to show that we want to do them. But then you have to make a decision, like if you don't get NZTA, how important they really are.
Yeah.
And I would suggest some of them you know, on a district basis, I think cities and like roads and can be important to this district, but it's very important to be.
Yes. Yeah. Next slide. So there are a number of projects which could go back in for 27-28 bid to NZTA, which may, or as Julie alluded to, may not attract subsidy. There are some decision points that will be needed around what projects we want to prioritise and which projects that we may not even consider putting in. So we have highlighted in yellow projects that we believe should be considered, and some crosses through some projects which may not be wished to be considered as we go forward. An example being that ran through the Paddy Road, Barney's Lane. That's just an intersection. Some of the work has been done there, and some of that could be done under that small safety projects district wide if there is any remaining pieces to be done there. Those rural crossroad intersections, there was the list of intersections that come through in our plan, and I know Tracy, you'd talked to one of those particularly where you'd actually had an incident yourself on one of those through run through risk and everything, as opposed to putting that back in the application for future years. Street lighting improvements, we do get constant requests around areas where our current street light network may have dark spots. How many street lights was that? 50 years? About 6. Roughly 6 new street lights for each of those amounts. Edge marker post improvements, we do have some challenges around our network and that in terms of just making improvements in those spaces. Those are sort of your roadside marking piece. Those are more footpaths.
Have you let people in Moser that email you every 3 months know that that's there?
Can I borrow your felt pen?
You want to put some more?
No, I'm going to put lines through.
He doesn't want to do it.
No, and that's
Absolutely
and
not.
that's what's for consideration.
It's easy. That's no brainer. Get rid of it. Tough shit. You didn't pay for it yet. You're not having it. Gone.
Fair point for people.
Yeah, I've had this conversation. We, the Royal, we cocked it up when we did the Bettencourt Place and proved the planning consent and they don't want to put pass. So it created an expectation.
Yeah.
For the rest of the people, they didn't buy them, so they don't get them. I just make, yeah,
David Harrison's property without.
Or it's taken right.
yes, yeah, we'll take it right.
Yeah.
Just makes no sense that, if that's the biggest priority we've got, I know it's out of the way, but
Yeah.
you go, it's just easy, kick back and right on the road.
So
Chippy, on these, excluding that one maybe, because I'm not going to do like them around there. But some of these projects, are we sitting, like if they don't get done, and acknowledging what Julie said as well, some of them are quite important safety aspects.
Yeah.
And if we keep, dare I say, kicking it down the can, at what point are we going to end up with it compounding and being, and
It's only a matter of time.
it's only a matter of time, isn't it? Once again, so we're in the same situation.
yeah, look, and I think that's very our focus for the local share small safety projects. The one near the bottom there where we are proposing even just 100% local share funding is enabling us to address some of these things as needed. Now, as we get to the 27-28 bid to NZTA, we might have addressed some of those based on priorities, which we will be looking at. Some of the other ones there may qualify for subsidy depending on what the government policy statement for transport looks like. But I left the footpath sacrifice and worms in there for that mini discussion, and it may be appropriate to look at that market rate option.
No, probably.
There are 3 projects between there for a cyclist clip-on structure, a Clyde cycle connection, and a Cromwell Town Centre to make cuts to the cycleway connection project. And if that's something that this council would like to consider in future years, and leave it a planning, but as a further out period, but they were tagged in the funding bid to NZTA and did not achieve funding.
If I can just add, that rural crossroad intersection improvements projects, that originated from NZTA.
Yeah.
Of course it did.
I think you should do this. We didn't think we needed to do it. There hasn't been questions, but that's it.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but this was saving patterns around the intersections in the media too. So then, they thought they should.
And there are lower cost options for some of those run through risk sections, which we could double up signage and do things as opposed to those setback. And there are other improvement options that are lower cost that we can do and target in a small safety spend. But there's 3 projects there that have been prompted for discussion. There's provisions of new sections of footpath cycleway associated improvements there. As well, that was previously in long-term plans, pedestrian crossings, the seal extension of Sandflat Road now. There's also the Murray Point seal extension in there, but the Sandflat 1 road is actually a short section that's actually challenging to grade and would actually have benefit in being done if we could achieve NZTA subsidy on that. There is the Cromwell Town Centre projects, which are proposed to move out into future long-term planned periods where subsidy from NZTA can be considered, or the project can be considered if successful with NZTA subsidy. And other than that,
Keeping some of these, like the flip on, that's a CapEx project on the school.
yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, the reality is right now with this LTP, we will need to strip out some of the CapEx program because our, you know, even if you said, oh, yeah, let's push it out in the out year, we'll have to put it into our funding and financing strategy for the next 10 years. That'll show up in debt level, it'll show up. So the opportunity is now to start stripping stuff out. Yeah, obviously adding things in as well, but I mean, I think we're going to have to be, well, dare I say, you're going to have to be ruthless in taking stuff out of places.
So how did that go from bronze to ruthless on a roading matter?
So our investment focus has been around maintaining the roads that we do have and doing the renewals we do have and addressing our bridges.
Yeah. And that would have to be, which is when the community tells us.
There's not going to be a clip on, not going to be a clip on for the cyclists here. There'll be a sign saying dismount when you're on the pavement. Same in Clyde. You know, those things that would be awesome to have.
Nice to have around.
Very much nice to hear.
Yeah.
Some of those projects, you just need to go back and look at what the level of service renewal growth split is, because those from the town centre projects, they will be being calculated into the development contributions. Development contributions going towards those projects, so you probably need to keep them within the 10 years that they're originally going in a program, but you can push them out to the tail end of that 10 years.
And that's essentially what's been proposed there around those Cromwell Town Centre pieces, and obviously as that vision gets developed, and depending on the outcome of that realignment, that road installation, that roundabout will come, and we do have the ability to fund the development contributions. But there's ones here that we've basically said that potentially there. That's the ruthless piece that was alluded to in terms of unfortunately the cycling, the footpaths piece of improvements in terms of new stuff doesn't go into that period. Is there any projects there in yellow, apart from the alluding to the footpaths by moorings, that you would like to be not included, or to potentially come back with more information around not being included in the budget?
I'd like to stay living in Clyde, so more work in the Clyde Heritage Precinct could help that. I mean, is that 500K? That's what's happening at the moment.
Correct.
Thank you.
It's fine.
Your one's okay.
No, it's not a matter of that.
That's the current LTP, but
Yeah.
you look at that, and if that was for next year, you'd be going, do we need to do that?
Do we really need to do it? Because
So ignore that profile.
Thank you. I did wonder that.
Yeah.
Maybe we
So
should
it's
put some
been-
donation boxes on our bridges where we want cycle clip-ons and try and get cyclists to help pay for the upgrade. Maybe we need to get cyclists to help contribute to the cost of some of our infrastructure. We're working on it.
Very much paying for that anyway. It's a state highway. There's a state highway to be there. We had that in our project program because Stephen Jeffries is part of cycle. But should we have been something that council was funded?
Well, everybody else kind of just, once you see it in our budget, if it goes off everyone else to try and come up with the money, our council will do it.
If we want something that NZTA say is a state highway project and we prioritise, then we can still fund it. You know, if they're not going to fund our local share, why would you do it on the it's going to be ERSE, not ERSE.
Where's Link Lane, remind me?
So Link Lane is, basically the piece that comes in with the buffer and different bits and pieces. There's not actually defined road reserve, and there's lots of sections of road through the mall that's, quite a significant title.
Oh, that's wrong.
Load lane.
Load lane? Road lane, might be the name?
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
But when you come and when you can afford it, we'll see.
So that's linked to the town centre, so that, they sit as a package.
Yeah.
And I think what Julia said about development uses of what impact that has, but I think. And depending on where the LCP goes with the Cromwell Town Centre, as to whether they stay or go ultimately.
Yeah.
They become part of a bigger package.
Correct.
So I don't think you
I
can,
think still pushing them over this 3-year period.
Yeah.
Application for ZTA and this 3-year period. Yeah. Application for ZTA.
How many more slides you got, Keithy?
Wow. Why?
Right, we need to, I'm just conscious that we.
Yeah.
It was only 45 minutes, it's now 53.
That's what.
Which is much our fault.
I'll go then.
Oh, this is a big one, hey?
We have undertaken enforcement in the past. We didn't have the systems follow up in place for this to necessarily be effective. We do have the back end process set up now. We acknowledge Council Community Board had previously raised this issue. Some members of the public contact us regularly with regards to repeated offenders. We do send letters, but don't undertake the enforcement piece. There are challenges in how we would service this through staff, contractor, and obviously Tim and Bob undertook the reminder period, and I know quite on time, but if you want to add any.
Oh, it was just staggering, the number of people when I first did it over summer, so a lot of the people I think were still locals in the shops, and at times it was a third of the car parks were basically all day. When I started this one out here, third of them were there all day.
Yeah.
And I consistently hear some members of council and community board say, we need more parking, we need more parking. No, we don't. We need to kick ass to those who park in there, what they can park all day. And for me, I reckon if we can get somebody to do some enforcement and have the back end stuff for the enforcement, and the rest of the time you have someone like me going around with a bit of chalk and scaring the bejesus out of people until they stop parking there. Because you see, yeah, you don't have to drive a ticket every time you put a bit of chalk on, but they'll have to get out and move the car.
I just, I've seen the kids out. Cover the car park in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just so frustrating.
For a short term, like a fixed term enforcement over, say, summer, so that then we've got the data about whether the ongoing violations.
We did lockdown. I'm not sure if you want to talk to that, but there were some challenges around a contractor.
I think there's complications with doing it sort of piecemeal. QPM have been having a number of conversations about this, following on from the ongoing conversations that we're having around the table before this, and so we've got a couple of options that we won't go through now. But we've got a couple of options to progress this, each with that come with their own complications, but also looking at how we can make it cost neutral. And because that's the end goal, right? We want people to park as they should park. We don't want to do the bidding on the ratepayers not going to use. So we're working through those options together as to how we can make that work. If this is a direction that you absolutely want to pursue.
I think we need to see the dollars and cents in front of us, because there is a hidden cost in this, which is people's frustrations that are going to boil over into more car parks being built, which don't need to be.
So I think this is a great one for us. Do you want us to explore more about us and come back through this information?
I think so. Yeah.
Otherwise, take the signs down.
Yeah. Same people who complain about the rates going up will be the same people who complain about parking tickets, but okay. I think that's
Now, the next one is on personnel.
people and culture.
We're going to take that into the councillor ELT time only,
Okay,
and because some of what slides are moving.
thank you. Good point. Planning and regulatory, Mr. Leinster.
Superb. That's something really easy. They're going to do all taking that, I promise you.
No, thank you. I'll see how we get the time. Okay, fire away. Oh, we're loading up before we fire away.
So really just want to have a conversation with you primarily about environmental health and alcohol and the services that we provide. And then I'll just touch on a bit of an update with regards to planning side of things. So whilst the message just getting organised, all that. So environmental health, which is what you'll see shortly in the first slide. No questions. Take your time.
I think stuck on people's skull.
Right.
I mean, push it.
Don't do that.
We're all enough.
Don't do that. So next slide, please.
Just a minute, just share this.
So what we're looking at with environmental health, and so predominantly we're looking at food hygiene, food safety, and so what we have is food control plans are your highest risk type of premises. So those are your restaurants, your cafes, that type of thing. Then we get into the national programs of 1 through to 3. And so those are your lower risk type of premises, whereby it might be retailers of prepackaged ice cream, it might be a brewery, for argument's sake. And the time frame that we're looking on the right hand side of that is when we need to go and do the auction. So for your highest risk ones, we see them at least every 12 months, could be every 18 months. However, if we go to a premises and they're not necessarily meeting the requirements, that could be every 3 months. And so the numbers that we're looking at there, whilst they could be every 12 to 18 months, if everyone's not doing a very good job, times that by 4 basically is what we could be looking. The national programs, again, being the lowest risk ones, and they, as you can see on the right hand side, the national programs level 1. We do that once and then that's it. They have an annual registration, but we don't need to go back and see them again. 2 every 3 years and 3 every 2 years. Confusing, I know, but we'll get on the assessing from that point of view. The others include premises like hairdressers, camping grounds, funeral directors, offensive trades, those type of premises. And we've taken the approach whereby they're relatively low risk when you look at the activities that we're doing. And so we push them out to sort of every 24 months, to be perfectly honest. We could do them every 12 months. And there's around about 70 of those. Service requests are just put in there just with a bit of information of the number of inquiries that we're getting, and noise complaints have been trending on the up. As we look at things like Plan Change 19, we're building more residential sections, we're building smaller sections, we're all living closer together. We are likely to get more and more noise complaints from that community. Next slide, please. So when we're looking at food premises, the next slide will come in a second. What we're looking at is the revenue that we bring in relation to, like, obviously a rating contribution, but also so we have the annual registration fee for all of the food premises. We have the auditor inspection fee that comes along with that, but also we have NPI have decided that they are going to introduce a levy as well to take their portion of what you enforcement and the work that we're doing basically, but we have the privilege of collecting that on their behalf. And so that starts next year. And so the table at the bottom is the incremental increase that each of those food businesses that we've just been talking about will also have to pay on top of the fees and charges that we have for ourselves. Now, to give some context for this service, at the moment, we're looking at around about 60% of the cost of the service is rates funded. Versus 40% is covered by the user pays. The challenge that we have with this is that we've got, quite, as you saw in the first slide, quite a small food business basis, so to speak. But for the cost of the service and what we have to deliver as a statutory function, being borne by quite a small number basically. And so the food control plans, the ones that we have to do, those are around about 165. The lower risk food premises, like the national programs, around about 116 of those. So if we go on to the next slide, the irony is that with the lower risk type of food premises, we actually have to have a quality management system, but we don't have to have one for the highest risk. So in statute, we absolutely have the rights to go into those food businesses and we register them all regardless. But we go in and only council can do the audits for those food control plans, unless they're custom, and that's the next level. For the national programs, we don't have to do that. But if we've chosen to, for those 116 small food businesses in our community, we have to have a quality management system. That means we have to be audited. and we get audited approximately every 18 months with either IANS or JASNs, similar to what we did with building control. Also, as part of that, the team that go out, team 2, by the way, that go out and do these audits have to be recognised. So they have to be audited themselves. And we as an organisation with our quality management system have to be a recognised agency to be able to do the lowest risk food businesses, all of which costs money. And so the question in relation to all of this picture is there something that you would want me to go away and explore more where we don't provide that service for the lowest risk food businesses who, if we didn't provide that service, they would have to go to places like Queenstown or Dunedin, who have a similar sort of quality management system as ourselves. That therefore obviously brings in more cost to those small businesses that we have, and there's 116 of those. The second part of that question is, if we pause for that query, do you want me to explore what a reduction in the user pays versus rate payers looks like? And that's obviously going to be increases in fees and what that could look like basically.
What's the split? I know it's out of the room. What's the split at the moment?
60-40, so 60% of the cost of the service is currently funded by rates, 40% is by user pays, because we've got such a small food business group that those costs are passed on to basically.
And if I can add, there's a lot of work done and this is directly related to food premises, like all the noise fallouts, all the other inquiries. I'm thinking about buying a business, and all of those phone calls that we get, all complaints, all sit against that cost centre, which is why there's a larger rate component.
So I'm not asking you to make the decision today. Yes, you want to exclude those lower risk food businesses. What I'm asking is, if you're comfortable with that level, then I won't do anything. If you're thinking it's something that we need to explore, I'll go and explore them. When we come back to the LTP process, say, here's your options, 2 to 3 options, rather than say, status quo, in, out, increased fees, and a mixture of it basically, or no, we're happy with where we're at the moment.
If we didn't want to be a recognised agency and they would have to go to Dunedin or Queenstown anyway, is there any ability for us to work together with one or both of those councils so that, say, all of Otago was offered the same system out of Dunedin and we all just chip in a little bit, and they come, this week I'm through Central Lakes, next week I'm in Waitaki, or...
I'm unsure of that, because Dunedin, and their costs would be different to Queenstown. Their costs, their capacity and capability. I haven't spoken to either of those councils in relation to the potential for that, but that may be an option. It may be an option. Because I'm mindful of the fact, and these are difficult conversations, as we know, but this not having the capability within our organisation means that we are providing more challenges and more cost, without question, to those 116 businesses.
And I'm guessing there's probably a similar number in some of the other places. Queenstown might be higher, but it's a big cost for us to carry for 116 premises. I'm sure Waitaki would be in, wouldn't they, Louise? You'd be confident to say.
And there are a number of councils throughout New Zealand that don't have this for this exact reason.
Yeah.
Whatever the cost, those councils might be North Island ones that have got a big city 20 minutes down the road, which makes it easier. We're a long way, and no matter how it works, the impact on those 116 financially is going to be significant. And if there is going to be a cost increase for them to balance things, the only way we control the significance of that is if we undertake it ourselves and go, okay, it might have to go up 10 to balance things a bit. But on the other hand, people like to have somewhere to dine. They like the food trucks. They like the small premises. And they ring about noise, and they, it's
our lane.
It is our lane. I think that's the first thing, Stu. You're right. I think this
Our
is
lane. The last thing we want to be doing is hammering those wee businesses again with that one
they're
service.
off the just Bible and no more. Neil.
Well, it'd be really easy to say it's all user pay. But going back long enough when we put this in place, we realise that if you do that, you're going to make it hard and drive and have an adverse impact. But I think at the same time, it does make sense to understand what it is actually costing. So the people, the resident opinion survey says it already, don't understand. Well, here goes some information that could help. If we understand, we might have passed it on. But I think also you could change it to straight user pay what's the real rating increase? I don't think it's significant. That's the worst thing about it as well. It's not, you know,
It's only
it's not,
116 subsidised.
it's not going to give you a big return and reduction in rates type thing either. But the sort of parts can add up, but I think it's about maybe you as a token, you say, well, we're taking it from 60-40 to 50-40 or 40-60 or something, you know, you might, but that's all about sending a message, but I think without understanding, saying, well, what's the true cost? Because you'll say it's $10 a year per ratepayer or whatever it is, and you know, what are we bothering? But you keep on saying that and you get $100 a year.
Because at the moment, that attributes to around about less than 0.5% in rates.
So if we were going to make any significant impact on that 0.5%, it would help out those businesses.
It's right.
Yeah, yeah.
We have, if we want to live the lifestyle we live and
I go
have,
through all the money.
we have what we've got now, a growing food, wine, events calendar. We don't want to be killing those businesses.
One presumes their costs have gone up at
And I think
approximately CPI rate. You know, it's not something where we haven't increased it for 5 years and we need to look at a fair change to it.
No, we going back about sort of 3 years ago and looking at that rating versus user pays ratio. And we've made the decision here to, and we actually increased it sort of for the next 3 years by 20%.
Okay.
But we've already done that going back in about 3 years, 2 years, and more recently basically and through the annual plan this year as well. And to try and balance that, because it was even more than 60-40 that we're seeing today, basically. And it is really difficult. You know, I think it's an important service that we do provide.
Yeah.
And, you know, for that 116, it would absolutely kill them. There's no question about that. But it's an option that needs to have a conversation with
Yeah.
the parents.
Okay.
And the vibrancy that those businesses bring from a tourism point of view, that for us who are as well, is really important.
Just a lot of transparency on one of those businesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think we could.
Well, put them all up apart, don't put any up apart from sellers, just put sellers.
Plus one. I think Lily's one as well, aren't you? No, you're not, you don't pay it with your funeral. Oh. Yeah.
No.
So is there an appetite to increase the level of contribution from the ratepayer? Because of the risk of small business?
Not at the
60-40 at
moment,
the
no.
moment. 60.
No.
Yeah.
No, Nigel would have something to say about that.
I haven't had a whole.
Well, yes, one of those complaints.
I haven't had a lot of complaints over my desk. So,
No, I'm just saying, look, if
No,
not,
no,
no, yeah.
so you change it, no new complaints.
I think it's about right.
Library charge.
It's an inexact science, but it's probably near enough that.
yeah.
Particularly with it's going to be staff time for very little benefit. We're never going to, this ain't the golden goose.
That's what,
But I
Because
just
the golden goose is
it would be good from an elected member point of view to know the numbers.
if it's, depending on how much money.
But we certainly do that as we work through the.
Just that.
Yeah, you got-
Understand
Yeah.
what that picture looks like.
Yeah.
We're not looking to
Make me-
dispute what we've just been talking about.
it's no, the numbers are pretty
I
quick.
think if the numbers feels right, though, it's never going to, we can't take enough out of that to make an appreciable difference, so why do it? All right, onwards.
Next slide. And so we can forget about that, so we just answer those questions. So alcohol licensing, just to give you some box of numbers that we're looking at, the types of licenses that we have. The licenses for your ons, offs, clubs, and your managers. The license you get it for 12 months, after that it's 3 years basically. Special licenses are just your events, and we are seeing a steady increase, which is really good to see for those special licenses for the events that have been coming through, which is fantastic. And currently for this service, and so just to explain, the team of two that do, say, 2 officers with 2 supports that do the environmental health, also do the alcohol licensing side of things as well. So it's a really skinny team to be perfectly good about that. These fees are set in statutes, and so we go on to the next slide.
Thank you, good information.
So just to give some context of how this works under the regulations, and so depending on the type of premises that you are of the high risk, you get more points in the weighting you'll see on the right hand side. So this is first and foremost of the type of premises. Then the next slide. Then we look at your hours of operation. So the later that you're trading into the wee small hours, and then you are higher risk. They close earlier, lower risk, and so you get lower score. And then the weighting of if we've taken enforcement action against you, and how many holdings, as they call them under legislation, again gives you a weighting. All of that on the next slide then puts you into a category from very low to very high. And then that establishes your application fee for your license as well as your annual fee. So really straightforward.
It seems to make good sense.
So in order you pay more.
Yeah, fair enough, too. You put more heat on the system.
So the question in context of this, knowing that the rating contribution versus user pays is 80% user pays approximately to 20% rates, is whether or not you're comfortable with that, or you want me to explore, because what you can do is that you can create your own alcohol fees bylaw. The Act enables you to do that. And so if that's a question as to whether or not you want a specific bylaw to look at increasing the fees from an alcohol licensing point of view, that's something that we can look at to reduce that further.
Does that bylaw allow you to cover more than costs? Are you able to gain off it? No, then what's the point?
Just the cost.
Sounds to me, again, it's going to be the scenario Neil had, that even though the numbers are bigger, if they're already paying 80%, if we ramp that up to 95%, we might make, an extra 10 grand a year.
You don't need a bylaw to increase to 100% rate, user pay, do you?
No, don't need.
No, need a bylaw.
No, so what good does a bylaw do us then?
So the bylaw just, because there is when we're looking at the public good side of things, the public good elements, and if the question is that you want to remove that so it is 100% user paid, we can do that.
That has to be by bylaw.
Yeah, but you can adjust that so that you're reducing the increase in user paid to 100%, but you might look at it and go, actually, the cost of the service, when we apportion it, it's gone up, and the fees currently don't cover that once we sort out the overheads and what have you as well. So we may need to increase the fees if it was 100%.
So the bylaw enables increasing fees.
But if you're not recovering it, if you're not recovering a cost through user and rates,
Yes.
that's the 100% at the moment.
Yeah.
If we're not recovering those costs, then you can say, we could be going down the bylaw to say, need to charge more. Or we can, so that's one thing, and that we would know though, are we covering those costs?
We are at the moment in relation to the fees that we've got with the rating contribution of about 20%.
But if that 20% went to the user, you're still going to get 100%, so that you can still cover it.
Possibly we might. Again, I'm talking in relation to, I don't know where the overheads are going along for me personally at the moment. And so as we work through that, if the picture changes this picture, then we may not be. And if we're not, is there an appetite for us to look at Bible?
So ballpark in dollars, and I'm appreciating to be ballpark in dollars, what is that 20% account?
80,000.
80,000? Oh, okay, that's fine.
Which if that 80,000 was put on the 134 people, that would break their businesses.
There's more than 134, was it?
So if you go back
This is
to two
excellent.
slides, I think it is. 3 slides, 4 slides.
So it's all of those put together, so about 5.
Well, not
No, no, the same place.
For the managers, and again, with each of these, we pay a levy back to the Ministry of Justice as well.
So you're done, it's a combination of all of those total, or just the club on and off license?
So it would be a combination of all of those.
So 80,000 divided by the 600.
Yeah, 550.
But if you think about the special licenses on picking up, for example, that's what we've just said, there would be a massive increase in cost that would.
So with the special licenses, they're on 3 tiers as well. And so we've got tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And so a large scale event is the high, so it's over 500 people going.
Yeah.
So that would be, currently it's 527, I think it is, off the top of my head. That in some councils, I know is nearly $900.
So as someone who obviously we've put together this for smaller things that are out there, if those fees go up, that's going to stop, put a kibosh on some of those specialists.
There's an extra 100, if the 80 grand was divided by those, it's about another $145 for every one of them.
And so it was for a small event, the smallest that we've got, that would be $63 today.
And it's not just the Blossom festivals, it's all the collie clubs. It's special license, but then
So then,
Where do we apportion the cost and taking those considerations?
The $5 beers go up to 6.
you take it out, and you take it out of that, and you put it onto the stadium and the pub and the rest of them, they're getting absolutely smashed. And I don't think there's a lot of money in that at the moment either. frankly.
alcohol anymore.
Well, I've stopped drinking, so.
It's fun and everything.
I don't know if it's worth pursuing, eh? I mean, it seems a lot of work for very little gain that could have some quite serious
And actually, if you,
unintended consequences.
some of the businesses will maybe say the hotels around that have been in a higher cost structure, it becomes very high cost.
Well, we've lost.
We're actually not doing no more wrong.
Mm.
Like if you're in that top level, where the highest level is, you're gonna get a wallop there to really.
Yeah.
And you don't even have a chance to actually get yourself back down the list, because it's more convenient to have a high paying.
So we happy to move forward? I don't know if there's a lot
Well,
we go.
only thing I'd add, is as long as we know that we're covering our cost and that 80-20 is actually what's happening.
Yeah, as long as
If
they're.
it's not 80-20, because if we don't know that we're recovering, then we need to have a look at it, because
I think that's fair.
that could be the risk.
Thank
And
you.
that should be an ongoing piece of work regardless about us. That should be, we're meeting the policy. If we're not, then there's an issue, we need to fix it.
Thank you. And so the last one is more just was an information of the direction that we're moving. So just to give you some numbers in relation to land use and subdivision consents that we're looking at. And taking on board, you know the challenges that have been in the planning team over the last couple of years. And we've got into a really great position. And Fiona Clark today, incidentally, for your information for all, which is fantastic, is listening to the annual plan submissions as well of the direction that we want to be moving to make sure that we're providing the right service for our customers in a timely fashion, basically focusing on those statutory timeframes, focusing on the productivity of the team, but making sure that we've got the right process. There's no point having a process and charging customers for it if we've got a whole heap of waste inside there. So we can be focusing on what the process is and looking at that productivity based on that. To make sure that we're hitting those statutory timeframes as well. Next slide, please. And this is just to make you aware from the policy side of work and services and wills, basically. And so there'll be a report coming to you in the very near future with Anne and Louise and myself met recently to look at that program of works for the next 2 to 3 weeks. And so we'll be reviewing what we've achieved with the current program, what we're looking to move forward, the other elements that we're looking to improve, and why, with one eye on government and the reforms that are coming through, and to identify the areas of focus, and then also to give the timeframes that we're looking for each of those projects. And so you have the confidence in us to go, okay, if we're going to do X plan change or X piece of work, then what does that look like, and where are the updates coming? So you're kept informed in relation to that. The other key element in relation to that is the rating contribution for that piece of work, which is the budget, to make sure that we're rating for the piece of work that we need, and we're not collecting rates for work that's going to be 2 to 3 years times. And so that would be around about with the budgets that we have in the past, about a 1.5% rating contribution.
So we had, you may recall, through the evening plan, we took out 3 vacant roles in the planning team, and we zeroed out the district plan budget because we had a significant carry forward. So we've got a planning manager start today, and we will keep one of the roles, and I think we are funding out of the district plan surplus that we've had the carry forward. So we'll factor that in going forward, but there won't be an impact in this year of that, in the first year of that.
Will the change of government regulations about reasons consent, reason where have a cost saving to our business or whatever, it's going to be a whole lot of work to solve it.
Yeah, hell of a lot of work because they're going to repeal the Resource Management Act. So everything you do is up in the air. It'll be significant. We've just been through, putting the new legislation in that's been repealed, and now we're going to repeal again and put in new legislation. We know there's going to be a focus on private property rights and freeing up land for development. And I mentioned it will be quite contentious. So it'll be interesting to see where it goes.
So it could cost more.
Potentially, and the same with
We haven't seen anything cost less.
Is that the spatial planning that's going to put out that spatial planning?
I think there's still a belief that spatial feasibility is going to continue, so we are doing good work there. So as you'll know, this council has decided to focus on that, knowing that that's probably the stable thing. And we're still doing that, and plan changes are coming out of that rather than wholesale review of the district plan. So we're locked on with that.
And that's what that piece of work is reflecting, basically knowing what we know so far with government and where we believe the government is going, to look at where are the relevant parts for us in our community that we need to look at in our district plan. That we're not going to do a piece of work and then the government is going to change the rules, and it's a waste of time and effort.
Yeah. So when you see the priority, a lot of that is driven from the spatial planning.
Okay.
Thank you.
Wow,
Just like that.
Here's
Oh.
help.
the top points go to you guys today. That was meant to be an hour, it's like 20 minutes. Thank you.
They made boring look good and quick, didn't
And they don't. Hey?
they?
Yeah. Okay, folks, what we're going to do now is go into closed because we're moving into people and culture and then council and ELT only time.